that feeds on the will of its hosts. Pulsating with toxins, too dangerous to touch, too dangerous to ignore. We must drain the eye core of this dark infection. Its mindless husks.
Hey guys, in the last video I showed you a very high-end game Blight farming strat, and a lot of you liked it, but a lot of you said that you were experiencing too much lag, and that you were getting overrun by all the monsters. So here's an alternative, which scraps majority of the non-unique monsters, and focuses primarily on bosses, while still retaining a good amount of loot and gold. There will still be a few non-unique monsters running around since we're still utilizing the Blight Scarab to spawn all the bosses, but you shouldn't really be having as much performance issues. And the only thing you have to deal with are, well, the spongy bosses. First off, we're getting rid of the more non-unique Blight monster spawn modifier from the 1x3 idols, and instead we're replacing it with pack size and or quantity with Fortune Favors the Brave. We still want to keep as much percent increased effect of explicit modifiers on the Conqueror idols and the 1x3 idols, since it still gives us the most amount of pack size per map, which will scale the Titanic Scarab along with the extra quant and rarity. We'll also be using minor idols with the purpose of just getting up to 100% chance to spawn a Blight encounter, getting as much tower cost reduction as possible so we can quickly and easily set up all the towers before the encounter begins, so we have an easier time during it. Secondly, we're replacing the Bloodline Scarab with a Titanic Legend Scarab. We will be losing out on a decent amount of gold, but the quant and rarity we're pumping into bosses compensates a little bit for it. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we are keeping the Titanic Rusted Scarab with the Blight Hearted Scarab from the previous strat video that I did, and we're also keeping the Blooming Scarab. And on a side note, the description on the Blooming Scarab is a bit misleading. It says that Blight encounters in area have up to 3 additional unique bosses. However, what that actually does is it makes up to 3 lanes eligible to spawn bosses, which combines extremely well with Blight Heart Scarab because it spawns more enemies of all type, including bosses. We're also keeping Scarab of Invigoration for the extra loot. Something I found recently about this Scarab on GGG's Twitter is that it apparently gets added as an extra effect to the towers, which also stacks when multiple towers overlap. It also works on imbuing and smothering towers, which are the upgraded versions of empowering towers. What that means is that we can actually switch our anoint on the ring to increase range of smothering towers, or empowering towers if you will, to cover the entire area, and at the same time buffing all the monsters up, which will give us a lot more loot. And then buffing them all up with an empower tower level 3 here and there, which will make the Blight monsters take a whole lot more damage. Keep in mind, the actual debuff aura of Smothering Towers still doesn't stack if you overlap the towers. You can also put down an Imbuing Tower somewhere to boost your own damage a little as well, which might help in the long run. All of this without actually sacrificing any loot. Now you may wonder, if the Invigoration Scarab gets added as an extra effect to the towers, why are we anointing range instead of effect for more loot? And the simple answer is convenience. You can absolutely use increased effect of smothering towers, and monsters will die faster in their range, while also dropping even more loot. However, less towers will be overlapping, and you'll have to manage your tower setups better, instead of just putting down as many of them as possible all around the area, and kind of just forgetting about them, since you want to buff them up with an empowered tower as well as overlap them. You can experiment with it yourself and find what suits you best. Also, you still want the usual chill, stun, and empower tower setup on choke points, so almost nothing will ever really pass through. Now that we've talked about the idol and Scarab setups, let's talk about maps. Unlike in other Blight strats where you would want a tight map, we're looking for the complete opposite, which is a nice, big, spacious map since we benefit so much from having many lanes and towers. My personal recommendations are Beach for T16s and Sanctuary for T17s. And since we're juicing bosses with titanic rusted scarab, the best chisels to use are the proliferation ones, which add pack size to the map. If they're out of your budget though, or your idols still need work to be fully complete, you can instead opt in to use avarice chisels, which are the currency ones, or procurement chisels, which are the item rarity ones, or just regular quantity chisels. But you will always want to be chiseling your maps. On that topic, if you're unable to get all the mods on the idols that I listed, or your character isn't strong enough to deal with all these bosses, there are steps you can take to make it work. For example, removing pack size with Fortune Favors the Brave on the 1x3 idols and replacing it with Blight monsters take 30 to 40% increased damage mod helps a ton. The most important mod to have, however, on the idols is the increased effect of the mods, since that directly increases the amount of quant, rarity, and pack size of the map and Blight encounter. While the quant and pack size with Fortune Favors the Brave are just complementary mods for extra juice, so you can scrap them if needed. If you're still struggling to clear the bosses in a timely manner, you can replace the ring anoints with different ones, like Chill Towers freeze for 0.2 seconds, and Meteor Towers create Burning Ground for 3 seconds on hit. By the way, don't be afraid to build damage towers, like Meteor and Scout Towers, if your damage is lacking. It's more important that you manage to kill these big boys than having one reach the palm and causing you to lose out on all the loot. Also, it's worth mentioning that if your character's build can get bricked by bosses having 2 random modifiers from the Titanic Legend Scarab, you can replace it with a Titanic Scarab of Treasures instead. And by bricking your build, I mean stuff like bosses getting a life regen mod and you not having any life regen cancellation, or the bosses getting a crit resistance mod while your character is using a 100% crit chance build. I think that covers pretty much everything about this Blight strategy. I hope you guys like it, or at least found it a bit informative on stuff that could help you in your own Blight encounters. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, so you can stay up to date with my future Blight guides and strategies. I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.
And we are the cure.